Hello, everybody. I'm George Williams from Northeast Kansas Library System in Lawrence, Kansas.
I'm Christopher Brandon with the Cooperative Information Network at the Coeur d'Alene Public Library.
And this is yet another in our long series of pointless, crazy koha-US videos that you may learn something from, you may not learn something from, but we have fun making them, so what the hell.
Yes.
So last week, Christopher talked about he showed some buttons that he has created for filling in default passwords and usernames on the change password page. And there's some things about that that I liked, but I couldn't use them with the configuration we had now. But now that I know more about how to use the API, I've added those to my system. And so I thought we'd show you what the changes I made were. So
You've actually made some improvements too.
yeah, I found some cool ways to do it. So I'm going to start sharing my screen.
All right.
And you should see the koha-US page, right?
There it is.
And if my video cuts out, it's because I might turn it off because I'm having an internet connection problem from where I'm at today. So, but here's the koha-US homepage. And if you want to learn any more things from us from this video series, you go to the Learn page. And like I said, I'm having an internet connection problem, and so it's loading really slowly. And then you scroll down to the bottom and then watch koha-US original training videos. And this is the video from 2 weeks ago, koha jQuery REST API, resetting credentials. And this is season 2, episode 4. So this must be our
fifth episode for this.
Fifth episode of the new season.
Yep.
And you can find all other kinds of useful koha-US training stuff here. You can see we just had the conference, and all of the conference videos are not on this page yet, but they will be soon. I think they're all on the home page, but they'll be here soon.
Actually, if you go up to the top, there is a separate conference link for the 2021, and they're all there right now.
And I imagine that there will be a link here in this conferences section too, pretty soon. But all the information from all the previous conferences is here. And when we have videos from those, this is where they get posted. But this is all the great resources that koha-US has available. And the video we did last week, I would imagine that you have put the jQuery for that.
Yep.
On the Koha wiki, the community wiki, number 165 in staff client jQuery enhancements. So that's where when we're done with this today, I'm going to get the code that I've written, and that'll be number 166 in the jQuery library coming up soon. So let me just quickly, here's the code that Christopher wrote, and I'm going to look up a borrower. That's in the system already. I'm on the koha-US demo site. And if we click on change password, this is what Christopher had written, is this reset credentials to default and reset password only. And so this top button resets the username and the password, and the bottom one just resets the password. And what we talked about last time is that I can't really use that because I have 51 libraries and there is no system-wide default. And what we use instead is a set of buttons on the add patron page or modify patron page that gives people choices. So the first thing I did when I wanted to modify this, let me kill all of Christopher's code here. And I'm going to plug in, I'll just put all of my code here in one fell swoop. and show you what the changes are, and then we can come back and talk about it. So now if we go to click on edit for this patron, we'll look down here. And the reason that that I've got some different options here is because we have 51 different libraries and there's about 10 different defaults. We've never decided on a system-wide default. And so Christopher's code inspired me to come in here and do some cleanup. So on my old system, the old way I used to have this is I had two buttons for username options. I had a separate button for use card number for username, and a separate button for use first name dot last name for username. And so what I did is I styled into one button.
Nice.
So that instead of two big buttons here, I've got one button that gives me an option for delete or use current library card number or use first name dot last name. And so the way that these buttons work is, clear is an easy one, but use library card number just goes up to where the library card number is and copies the text out of this box into this box.
And you're not using the API because this,
yeah,
this can apply towards new patrons, and that information is not going to be there already.
Yeah, exactly. If we go to patrons, and let me just open a new box in a new window. If we do new patron and click on adult, this isn't connected to a patron, so the API can't go to a patron record that exists and get the data. But if we put the data here, like if we put a first name here, well, and I got those backwards, but it won't matter. This is just copying the data from up there because that way the data exists. If I click on library card number here, it's not going to give me anything because I didn't put in a library card number yet. But if I do first name, last name, that's going to give me a result because it's just copying it from off of the screen here. But I can't copy things out of it with the API if the record doesn't already exist. And that's what I want on this page when I'm creating a new patron.
Got it.
So I styled the buttons differently, and then I added some code that makes it so that one of the things I hate about the action buttons is it means an extra click. You have to click on the button to open it, and then you have to click on the thing you want. But I wrote some extra jQuery to make it so that when you hover on the button, it opens. And so this is just getting the data from the page. And this is doing the same thing for passwords. We have 4 basic passwords that a lot of libraries here. We use the last name, or we use the last 4 digits of the phone number, or we use the name of the town in lowercase letters, or we use the birth date in the format month, day, year. And so these 4 different options here, there's one for clearing, or it's just pulling the data out of the existing stuff that's already on the screen.
Right.
But what I did with the API after figuring out, after you showed how to use the API, I figured I could do all that same stuff with the change password button and just get the data from the API. So I've done the same thing here where I've got 1 button instead of 2, and I can set it so that use the library card number for the username, which is what this one already is, or use first name dot last name. And for the password options, I've got the same options there. It's just instead of getting this data from someplace on the web page, it's going out and using the API to create an array that has all that data in it. And actually, there's a trick here with the password page. If you have it set up to randomly generate a password, if you click that, it removes the masking off of the password. And so you can see this is grabbing the last name, last 4 digits of the phone, the name of the town in small letters, or the birth date in the format month, day, year.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's I'm glad I learned that from you, how to use the API to get patron data, because it has a huge potential for doing this kind of stuff, for getting data.
And again, the API is really handy. It's nice. I'm still learning a bit about the API, but it's nice because on the staff side, I can grab stuff and I don't have to rely on a report. I don't have to create a report and make sure that that report exists in order to maintain some functionality. This just grabs information from tables, so it makes it really handy on the staff side to make some of these modifications.
Yeah, I don't remember where I learned about the API, but the first time I learned about it, it was in a discussion about bibliographic data. And the bibliographic data is a lot more complicated because the API gets the whole MARC record, and then you have to parse the MARC record. But getting it for patron data, you just need to know the name of the fields in Koha, because it's not pulling in a whole blob of MARC data.
Right.
Which that has a huge potential too, but there's a lot more complexity with gathering the data for the MARC records. So
yeah.
So let me walk through what I did here, and let me open this. First I've got the code that gets the data for the add and edit patron screen, and essentially what I've got here then is I've got I'm finding the selector here is the user ID selector. And to that, I'm adding this list that's going to put the username options. It's putting that label underneath there, because what I found is if you click on edit or on add, all of these labels on the left-hand side in these boxes are list items. And so if you don't put a list item there to say what the button, to label the button, it ends up being over here underneath the other list elements. So it doesn't look as nice. It doesn't line up with the text boxes.
Right.
So I put the list element there just to make it look like it belongs there. And then the tricky part was figuring out how to create the drop-down buttons. And in Bootstrap, it's this, you need the button group as a class. And then I also added this style, or class, so that I could do some styling for the hover. I just called it Easy Fill. And then I also put a padding on top of 15 pixels so that it wouldn't be bumping right up against the bottom of the element above it.
Right.
But then the button class is button default drop-down toggle. And the drop-down toggle part is the part that makes it a drop-down button.
So do you still need that padding, even though you've got a label? It seems like the label is...
Yeah, it still needed the padding.
Interesting. Okay.
I think it's just part of the, the little boxes that are that surround these different things. I think it has to do with the fact that they're in a div, in a list inside of a div with different elements in it, and I think it has to do with the way that they're spaced. The CSS that controls those. The list elements don't necessarily, it was weird.
Yeah, because I noticed that your password options, your button is in line with the label, but your username options is down.
This was the best I could get it with a lot of experimentation. I didn't want to spend all of my time trying to get the
Right.
buttons to look perfect when I was working on this. So there might be a better way to do it, but this is the way that I found that made it work, that made it acceptable for me to put it in my production system. And so there's the button tag, and then inside the button tag is this unordered list with the list elements that make up the different options in in the button.
Mhm.
And then underneath that, I've got this is the code that actually tells Koha what to do when you click on one of those options from the dropdown. Because creating the button is one thing, but then actually getting it to do something is the second step. And these are pretty
Yep.
straightforward. You know, it's just, you know, find this on the page, and what the first one is just to empty the value. And the second one is saying, find the value of this other element and put it in lowercase and stick it in that box. And that's kind of the same thing then with the password button. It's the first part creates the buttons and creates the text that the button has. And then the next parts are saying, you know, when somebody clicks on this, it's going to find when somebody clicks on this, go to this element and put the data from this other element in there. So that was pretty straightforward. The more complicated part, of course, was the creating the buttons on the change password page is pretty much the exact same thing. The trickier part is using the API to get the data from the patron record.
So the
Yeah,
layout was similar, but you had to change the functionality.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is almost exactly identical to what you showed last week. You know, first we're saying get the borrower number from this tag on the page, and then use that to go and get that information from the API. And then the other big difference here is that I'm getting not just the first name, but you got the first name, the surname, and the card number, and I'm also getting the phone number, the city, and the date of birth, because I'm using those for the passwords.
Right.
And so then, you know, the first name and the card number are exactly, or the last name and the card number are exactly the way you had them set up. But then the tricky ones were the phone, using the last 4 digits, the phone as a password. I have to get that information. Now that I've gotten it from JSON, I have to get that from the array. And then I do a slice to get the last 4 digits of that string of data.
Right. Okay.
And so it's slice -4, which says start at the right side and then work 4 spaces backwards. And then the other one was the birth date, because that the JSON returns the birth date in the format of year dash month dash date. And so I had to do a slice there as well, where it's saying get the birth date and then get me digits 6 and 7. So the slice is starting at position 5 and ending at position 7. It's getting all the characters in between. And then it's going and getting its, the slice is from, you know, start at position 8 and get space digit number 9 and 10.
Yeah.
And then the first part is start at position 0 and get, you know, up to number 4. And then the last thing I had to do is all of the buttons that I created, I had to give that easy fill class. And so this is the part that says whenever the mouse overs easy fill, it's adding the class open to open that dropdown. And that's what prevents it from being 2 clicks to open the action button.
Nice.
So all in all, it worked pretty well, and I'll put all this stuff up on the wiki, but it's nice now it'll be nice for our staff. I've already got this live on our system.
Nice.
So that when they go to change a patron's password, they won't have to just freehand it. They have those same options that they have when they're filling in the password when they create a patron. So that'll be an improvement for our staff.
Excellent. Great improvements.
Yeah, and I liked figuring out how to do the smaller buttons. The drop down toggle button was I might use that I've got a couple of other places where I know that I've got multiple buttons, and it would be nice to reduce the number of those.
Yeah, you've inspired me with that, because I have some buttons that we've actually talked about this in previous episodes. I have some buttons where we do some quick changes for email addresses that are no longer valid. So and I have several buttons, and so that I can clean up. I like that because it cleans up the real estate. You're not filling up the screen with so many buttons and a lot of stuff that's just distracting. So having one button, one area to go to make those changes is really clean, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, I like the action buttons too, that they take stuff off the page. The thing I generally don't like about them is that a lot of times it turns what used to be one click into 2 clicks. And so being able to hover over them and have them open on hover instead of opening on a click, I think is it's important to me. And everybody in Next search catalog knows that what matters to me is important to everybody.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. And we'll be sure to have the links in the video and on the koha-US page for everyone to be able to get to the code that you've modified. And until next time, thank you for watching our video, and we'll see everybody in 2 weeks.
Yep. We'll see you all later.